All right, fifth grade. This is one of your last videos of math for fifth grade. You actually have this one and then one tomorrow and one Wednesday, and that's it. And Thursday's a review, Friday's your final test. So you are ending the year, and I did want to do these. They're pretty simple concepts, these last few lessons, but I wanted to make sure to get them in so that you have a good foundation going into sixth grade. So one of the things we worked with last week was dividing decimals and different ways to do that. And so we're going to keep going into it. And it's pretty simple, this one. I think you guys are going to catch on really fast because all we're doing is changing fractions to decimals. So I am on page number 258 if you would like to follow along, if you just want to watch and enjoy and then get it out when it's time to practice. But we will be doing some practice problems over here. So you're going to need a pencil and your math book ready to go. All right, so we know that we can read this as either 5/8 or we can do 5 divided by 8. Remember, the fraction bar acts as a division thing. So in order to change fractions to decimals, we have to think in terms of division. So we are going to read 5 divided by 8. So you're just going to simply do 5 divided by 8. And then take into the concepts what we learned last week, how since this is not you can't fit 8 into 5. You have to add a decimal, annex a 0, and then carry your decimal up there. That's the same thing that we're going to do every time with a fraction. Now, it goes into 50 how many times? I need to extend my line. It goes into it 5 times. Does it? Nope, it goes into it 6 times. Oops. 6 times 8 is 48, so we're going to add another 0. We are going to carry our remainder of 2 because 50 minus 48 is 2. So 8 goes into 20 how many times? It goes into 20 2 times. Annex your 0, extend your line. My remainder, 2 times 8 is 16. 20 minus 16 is 4. And 8 goes into 40 how many times? 5 times. So your 5/8 equals, as a decimal, in its decimal form, it is 0.625, or read as 625 thousandths. Okay, so this is just how you change a fraction to a decimal. All right, so some of them you're actually going to memorize. 3/4 is one that you are going to need to memorize eventually, and we will look into that in just a few minutes. But we just, same thing, read it as a division problem, 3 divided by 4, set it up so that 3 is here, 4 is there. Okay, we have to add our decimal and annex a 0, so 4 goes into 30 how many times? 7 times, annex another 0, 2 is our remainder, 30 minus 28. 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5. Okay, this 75.75 is always going to be 3/4. That's the equivalent, the decimal equivalent to 3/4. This is one of those ones that you need to memorize, and you will have it memorized. I just look at 3/4 and my mind automatically thinks 0.75, and you will too. Okay, another one, 3/8. Let's just practice one more time, and then you're going to practice with me. So we know it reads 3 divided by 8. We know we're going to have to annex a 0 and a decimal. So 8 goes into 30. How many times? 3 times, because 3 times 8 is 24, which means there's a remainder of 6. Extend my line, 8 goes into 60. 7 times 8 is 56. That means there's going to be a remainder of 4. And 8 fits into 40 perfectly 5 times. So 3/8 decimal twin is 3.375, or 375 thousandths. So it's not difficult. You're just adding what you learned last week in the week before with the decimals and annexing zeros, and what you already know by reading 3 divided by 8. So now open up in your books to page number 285. I'm on 1, but I actually wanted to show you on 285 if you're not there already. This box right here, I want you to star that. These are ones that you should have memorized, especially this first column, and this second column is not as important. The 0.2 you'll need to use a lot, but this first column is extremely important. You're going to need to know more often than not that 1/2 equals 0.5, 1/4 equals 0.25, and 3/4 equals 0.75. This is easy because if you think of it like quarters, 2 quarters is half of $1, so it is 50 cents. Add a 0 there. 1 quarter, 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents, and 3/4 or 3/4 of a dollar is 75 cents. So that's how I remember those ones. But back to 1F. Let's do this one together. Okay. We know that we need to make this to a division, so we're going to do 7 divided by 20, and we're going to have to annex our 0. I'm going to do long division on this one. I didn't do the first ones. This is F because I wanted you to use the box to fill in those first 5 of them, so that's why. So let's get dividing. Oh, don't forget to carry your decimal up there. So 20 goes into 70 3 times, because that would be 60. Okay, annex another 0. 20 goes into 100 how many times? 5 times is correct. So your answer is 0.35. Okay, and then 1G, let's do that one together. We have 3 divided by 20 if we read the fraction down as a division problem. Decimal, decimal, annex your first 0. 20 goes into 30 1 time with a remainder of 10. Annex another 0, drop it down. And again, 20 goes into 100 5 times. So our decimal is 0.15. Pretty easy, pretty basic. All right, we're going to move on to the next lesson because that was super easy. And this one is just as easy, just something actually incredibly new. We're on repeating decimals. So you can follow along on page 287 if you want. I'm not really going to read over the terms because I think that's kind of confusing, but I want you to definitely look at the terms and introduce yourself to them because you will be getting into them more in 6th grade. So if you are a little bit familiar with the terminating decimal, repeating decimal, and that's basically it. But this is really simple, okay? So if we had our fraction, which we just learned, 1/4 would read 1 divided by 4. We're going to divide, just this is a little bit of a review, so we're going to put our decimals in there, extend our line, annex our 0. 4 goes into 10 2 times, annex another 0 because there's a remainder of 2, and 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5 times. So 1/4 is easy. That is going to come out, and you don't have to do anything else. However, some of the problems that we were working on last week where it would say round your quotient to the nearest tenth or whatnot, we could have kept going and going and going and going forever if they didn't tell us to stop at the nearest tenth. So that's where we're going to learn about repeating decimals and what to do in that case. So we have 1/3, which I have already written out as the division, 1 divided by 3. So I'm going to set it up, annex my 0, put my decimal points. 3 goes into 10 how many times? 3 times with a remainder of 1. 3 goes into 10 how many times? 3 times with a remainder of 1. 3 goes into 10 how many times? 3 times with a remainder of 1, and so on and so forth, because you can see that it's never going to change. You're always going to have a remainder of 1. You're always going to go into it 3 times, and it's never going to end. So whenever you have a repeating decimal like this, instead of going on and on, what you're going to do is you're going to take this 0.333333 never ending, and you're just going to show that it's a repeating decimal by saying that it's 0.3, and you show it's a repeating by just putting a straight line on top of it. And this shows it's a repeating decimal so that your reader and your teacher and whoever knows that your 33333 goes on forever. Just back to this so I can explain. I didn't, but I should have. This is called a terminating decimal. That means it comes to an end. There's no remainder. It's done. It's clean. Terminated. Finished. Okay? That's a terminating decimal. This is a repeating decimal, and this line above it shows it. Okay? So let's do another one just to practice the repeating decimal, because it does get a little bit different than just 33333 all the time. So 5 divided by 6, set it up, decimals, extend the line, annex the 0. 6 goes into 50 8 times because 6 times 8 is 48, which means we're going to have a remainder of 2. How many times does 6 go into 20? 3 times, because 3 times 6 is 18. So 6 goes, so there's going to be a remainder of 2. 6 goes into 20 how many times? 3 times. Remainder of 2. How many times does it go into 20? 3 times. Oops. 3 times. See how The 8 is not a continuing number, but this 3 is a repeating decimal, okay? So how you write this is you only show the decimal that is being repeated. So where this 3 is here, you're going to, the 8 is alone. It's not being repeated over and over again. So it's 0.83, and then you show just over the 3. This is incorrect because it's not going 83, 83, 83, 83, 83. It's going 8, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, so that is your answer. And that's a repeating decimal. Now, sometimes you might have something like this where 2 digits are going over and over again. This would look like this. Okay, so that's sometimes you will do this, not as often as this. So let's practice together. Number 1, A, 1/9. So let's just practice down here. That means we're going to do 1 divided by 9. Set up, I don't know why I put a 0 there. Set this guy up right here. 9 goes into 10 one time with 1 remainder. 9 goes into 10 one time with 1 remainder. 9 goes into 10 one time with 1 remainder. 9 goes into 10, blah, 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 blah. So it is a repeating decimal. It's never going to change, which means we're going to do 0.1 and then just draw a little line over that, and that shows the answer. And number B, or letter B, 2 divided by 9. 9 goes into, let me set that up first. 9 goes into 20 2 times, because 9 times 2 is 18, which means there's going to be a remainder of 2. 9 goes into 22 times. There's a remainder of 2. 9 goes into 22 times. There's a remainder of 2, and so on and so forth. So again, we have another repeating decimal, and that's how you write it. All right, go ahead and finish your homework for the day. That's it.